What's up, fight fans? Welcome to Triple THS, brought to you by Kountermove Fantasy MMA at Kountermove.com. I'm the $5 movie bin of mixed martial arts, Tommy Toehold. Today, my UFC 182 Kountermove picks. Let's do this shit! It is finally fucking here, fight fans! The fight of the century, the one that everybody's been waiting for. Daniel Cormier's taking on Jon Jones. They hate the shit out of each other. This thing sells itself. Nothing I say to you right now is gonna be more awesome than Dave Schaller getting shoved through a banner while Jones and DC brawl to the floor of a hotel lobby. There's just fucking not. You know you're getting this card. People who don't even like fighting are getting this card because the beef is just too strong. So how about you do yourself a favor and make what will already be the biggest night of the new year into the most fun you've ever had. Now, everybody will be on the edge of their seats when Jones and DC start, but what if you were on the edge of your fucking seat for Omari Agmadov versus Mats Nilsson? Who the fuck are those guys, you ask? Nobody knows. They're fighting on the Fight Pass prelims, and you know what? I'm fucking jacked for that fight because I have one of those guys in my Kountermove Fantasy MMA game at Kountermove.com. It makes the first prelim just as exciting as the title fight where two men hate each other so much that they would throw shoes. Tommy, that sounds fucking amazing, but I don't know how fantasy MMA works. I don't know shit about this card other than DC and Jones. A panda from the future burst into my home and told me that I am the key to the future of mankind. All right, calm the fuck down. I will gladly teach you how to play Kountermove Fantasy MMA. I'm gonna go over every single fight on this card, and for the love of all that is right in the world, go with that fucking panda. All right, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is head to Kountermove.com using your favorite web browsing browser. I prefer Google Chrome. The rest of you can go fuck yourselves. Once you're there, you'll see professional hot person, distance runner, and inventor of the toaster, Natasha Wicks. Pry your eyes from her for just a moment, and you will notice that there are all sorts of fantasy MMA games for you to hop into. Big ones, small ones, you want it, we got it. But the only game I want to play is the one with my name on it. 25 bucks gets you in. The winner takes home $4,000 fucking dollars, and the top 196 payout. You may not be the best, but holy fucking shit, you gotta be at least 196th, right? Once you've chosen your game, you'll be brought to the team selection screen. This is where babies are made. You're gonna pick a fantasy team of 5 fighters using $25,000 for $10. Those fighters perform, you rack up points, you win. It's really that fucking simple. Now notice that I said points. This is not Las Vegas, fight fans. You can take your straight picks and shove them up your ass. Your points are based on performance, meaning the better your fighter does, the more points you get. So you're looking for finishes as quickly as fucking possible. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the matchups for UFC 182 and see who's gonna kick all the ass. Alright, first up we have Sean Jordan taking on Jared Cannonier. Jordan is an athletic freak. He played football at LSU. He has a 94% finish rate, most via knockout. He's been fighting at a very high level for a while now. 4 of his last 5 ended in the first round, but all 5 fights finished, 3 times via his hands and twice when he got his own lights put out. Cannonier is making his UFC debut. He's 7-0 with a high finish rate. He has 3 wins via knockout, 3 wins via sub. He's fighting out of Alaska. There's not much to know about Cannonier yet, but unless he's a world beater, Jordan is going to be a tough out for him. This is one you're going to want to put in your game. I think Jordan wins and likely wins early via KO TKO based on his past performances. Next, we got Danny Castillo taking on Paul Felder. Danny is a team alpha male fighter. He's got a 41% decision rate. He's been fighting at a high level for a pretty long time now. 2 of his last 3 he lost via decision. He has only finished 2 of his 11 UFC wins. Felder is coming into this fight unbeaten. He has a 67% finish rate, all via KO TKO. He won his UFC debut via split decision against Jason Sago. Felder is getting 5,000 over Castillo here, and I think that's because he has 6 finishes in his 9 wins, but this is a guy just now getting to the next level. Castillo has been here for a very long time. He likely wins via decision based on his history, but if you feel like living dangerously, at 4,400, he could end up netting you a lot of points. And coming off his most recent loss, there aren't likely to be a lot of other people picking Castillo in your game. Alright, next we got Marcus Brimage and Cody Garbrandt. Brimage is 7-3. He's got a 57% decision rate. In 6 fights in the UFC, he has 1 stop, his most recent win. Garbrandt is 5-0, making his UFC debut. He has a 100% finish rate, all via knockout. Brimage has more fights in the UFC than Garbrandt has pro fights altogether. Check most anyone that comes into the UFC, and their pro record pre-UFC makes them look like a world beater. I think Brimage likely wins this one, but I don't know if he gets a stop. I would avoid this fight. All right, next we got Evan Dunham and Rodrigo Dam. Dunham has 14 wins, 64% via finish. He's on a 3-fight skid in the UFC, but those losses were to Barbosa, Cerrone, and Dos Anjos, so take that with a grain of salt. He only has 3 stops in his UFC career, his last in 2012. He's only ever had 1 first-round stop. Dam is 12-8 with a 67% finish rate. He's got 1 finish in his whole UFC career, and he's on a 2-fight losing streak. Both of these guys need to win, but Dunham has more high-level experience. Look for him to win here. I don't think he gets a finish based on past performances, and at 5,300, that is way too much risk. I would avoid this one. All right, next we got Nate Marquardt and Brad Tavares. Nate is a longtime vet. He has a 75% finish rate over 33 wins. That is a fucking data set. Most of his losses have come via decision, veteran. Tavares is another vet. In 12 wins, he is 50-50 finishes to decisions. He has not had a finish in his last 8 fights and only 1 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight skid. Marquardt is a fucking steal here. He has had a rough run against some really high-level guys since he returned to the UFC, but he still has the ability to finish fights and finish them quick. I would definitely look to put Marquardt on your team here. I think he does well, and he gets a stop early. Next up, we have Omari Akhmadov taking on Mats Nilsson. Akhmadov is coming into this fight with 13 wins at an 85% finish rate. He's an international master of sports in Sambo and hand-to-hand combat. In 2 UFC fights, he's 1-1, both ending in the first round. He KO'd Thiago Perpetuo and then got subbed by Gunnar Nelson. All but 3 of his fights have ended in the first round. This is Nelson's sophomore effort in the UFC. He lost his debut via TKO to Luke Barnett in the first round. He has a 64% finish rate and 11 wins. Akhmadov did get beat, but he got beat by a really tough Gunnar Nelson. I think he rebounds here and wins big and fast. By all accounts, this dude is a straight-up killer. Look for him to bounce back. He is worth the 5,500. Make sure he is on your team. Next, we have Donald Cerrone taking on Miles Jury. Donald Cerrone is Donald Cerrone. He's got 25 wins, 76% via finish. He's on a 5-fight win streak, 2 first-round finishes in his last 5, and he has fought 4 times already in 2014. Jury is unbeaten in 15 fights with an 80% finish rate. He is only 26 years old, but he's been fighting professionally since 2008. He has 3 decision wins in 6 UFC bouts. He won his last in the first round against Takagomi. He's beat Diego Sanchez and Michael Johnson. Miles Jury is a killer, and he's on a hot streak, but it is impossible to deny the run that Cerrone's been on, and he has fought twice as many times this year as Jury against much higher level competition. He's going to be really comfortable in there. I think Cerrone wins big here, gives the young gun his first loss. I would want Cerrone on my team. Next, we have Alexis Defresne taking on Marianne Renee. Defresne's nickname is Sneaky Zebra, which is the best nickname in the history of the world. She is 5-1 with a 100% finish rate. She lost her UFC debut to Sarah Moras via decision. All her wins come in the first round. Renee is making her UFC debut. She has a 100% finish rate. Her last 3 ended in the first round. Both ladies are straight up killers and finish fights, so look for a quick finish here. I give the edge to Defresne because she survived a fight with Moras, so she's gonna be hard to put away. With only a few fights between them, I don't know if this one is a lock, but if you are looking for a 5th member of your team, you could do worse. Alright, next we got Josh Berkman taking on Hector Lombard. Berkman is a longtime vet, over a decade in the sport. In 27 wins, he has a 63% finish rate. He hasn't been in the UFC since 2008. He has not fought in the UFC since 2008. He is 4-1 in his last 5 for World Series of Fighting, including a first-round stop of John Fitch and 3 first-round stops altogether. Hector Lombard was death incarnate from 2007 to 2012. He has 34 wins with a 77% finish rate. He has never been stopped. He's an Olympic judoka, a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He has had a rough run so far in the UFC. 2 of his 5 fights have been losses via decision, but he does have 2 stops in his 3 UFC wins. Berkman is a much tougher out than people think. I don't think he wins this fight, but he hasn't been stopped since 2008. He's been vulnerable to submissions in the past, but has never been KO'd. I think Lombard wins. I'm just not sure he railroads Berkman, and at 5,400, Lombard could be a dangerous pick if this fight goes late. I'm going with Lombard, but he's not the first pick for my team. Next, we have Luis Gaudano taking on Kyoji Horiguchi. Gaudano has a 66% finish rate in 6 fights. In 4 UFC fights, he's lost twice. He has 1 win via sub over John Lineker, and a sub win over Phil Harris, overturned due to a failed drug test. Horiguchi is 14-1 with a 71% finish rate. He has never been stopped. He's unbeaten in 3 fights in the UFC with 2 stops, 1 in the first round. Horiguchi is young with a lot more experience. Look for him to win here. He has shown that he can finish fast, but at 5,400, he is not the most proven guy on this card, but a solid pick, no doubt about it. All right, and finally, the fucking big one, the title fight. Jon Jones taking on Daniel Cormier. JBJ has 20 wins, 75% via stoppage. If you're only counting his UFC career, that number drops to 66%. He has beat everybody there is to beat in this division, minus DC and Rumble. Arguably the best fighter of all time at light heavyweight, but he only has 3 first-round stops in 15 UFC fights. In 8 title fights, 63% have gone into the championship rounds. His last 2 title fights were decisions. He does have the longest reach in the division. He's very creative on his feet and on the ground. He was a national JUCO champion in wrestling. DC is unbeaten in 15 fights with a 66% finish rate, 50% in the UFC. He's an Olympic wrestler and a former heavyweight, very powerful. He tossed Dan Henderson around like a child, has fought and beaten some big names at heavyweight, relatively untested at 205 with Pat Cummins and an older Hendo. He has a relentless pace. He comes after people, has never even lost a round in his career. Very mentally tough, but he is a bit on the short side at 5'11 to JBJ 6'4. These guys hate the shit out of each other. If it turns into a brawl and gets sloppy, I think that could possibly favor Cormier, but I don't see that happening. These are 2 guys at the top of their game. If Jones tries to prove a point by out-wrestling DC, I think that's a mistake, but a mistake he would only make in early rounds. If it's not working, he will abandon it for his reach and those nasty fucking elbows. One of the things he does well is adapt, and he has proven that. DC will look to work fast and hard. This is a guy who has never lost a round. He's going to be a quick starter getting inside inside, and Jones has not shown that one-shot finishing power, so I think DC will take his chances getting inside, probably take some elbows that will open a cut. I think if he gets a hold of Jones, Jones will go for a ride, but the champ can take a shot. I don't see him getting stopped here, and likewise for DC, these are durable, tough dudes. The only stop I see is maybe a sub by JBJ from the bottom if DC tries to tee off on him, but it is honestly a toss-up on who wins. This is one of the most badass fucking fights of all time. It's a great matchup. I think it goes all 5 rounds. It's really gonna depend on who can do what they do best. I'm avoiding this one because I think it goes long, and they're so well matched up that either one of them can win. All right, now that you've gone through your options, it's time to make your picks. You can go with whoever the fuck you want to go with, but I'm taking Sean Jordan, Danny Castillo, Nate Marquardt, Omari Akhmadov, and Donald motherfucking Cerrone. Once you've got your A-team, hit the play now button, invite some friends, and come fight night, you can check out how well you're doing against your enemies. Like I said, I don't gotta sell this card. Everybody wants to see Jones and DC, but let me tell you this. That hype, that feeling you're getting waiting for that Jones-DC fight is exactly how Fantasy MMA at Kountermove.com is gonna make you feel about every fucking fight on the card. It is the most fun you're ever gonna have, and I'll make it easier on you because if you make a deposit from now to UFC 182 and use the promo code RESPECTFULLY, you're gonna get a 30% bonus on your deposit. There has never been a better time to play. There's big games, small games, high roller games, cheap games. Make your own fucking game. There is something for everybody. Get in my tourney, invite your friends, invite your uncle you never see, get people in here and have a fucking blast. For everybody Triple THS, I'm Tommy Toehold. I will see you on the leaderboards. So make sure you're wearing something classy.